Welcome back to the channel, everyone. My name is Nick. For those that are new to the channel, hopefully by the end of this video, you do become a subscriber. So over the last couple years, and technically for a very long time, Tether has always been spotlighted as a big fraud. In fact, Tether has always gone through a lot of FUD. A lot of people have been, talking about if Tether is safe or not, or if it's like one of the biggest rug pulls around crypto. It's a ticking time bomb, just waiting for it to implode and crash the market and this, that. And, these conversations continue to be pretty loud even today. Now, the big question is, do we have anything to be worried about with Tether? Now, just for, full transparency right now, I do not trust Tether. In fact, I don't really trust any of these stablecoins because over the last couple years, we have been told that, oh, this stablecoin is very safe or this exchange is very safe, only to find out that they're not. Right now, technically speaking, I would only trust ROUSD. The issue is that it's not really publicly available on a lot of these exchanges. We don't have a lot of trading pairs tied back to ROUSD, so we don't actually have a lot of access to it at this current moment in time. But it is a stablecoin that I actually do put a lot of trust behind, and it's not because I'm biased or anything, but it's because of the reputation of Ripple and what they've been doing for the last roughly decade plus. But regardless of that, let's actually talk about Tether because it has over $145 billion tied to it. It's the largest stablecoin by market value. And the question still remains, can we trust this stablecoin? Now, if we go over here, there was a post made by the CEO of Tether. And he is saying that Tether was the 7th largest buyer of US Treasuries in 2024 compared to countries. Now, this is interesting, right? But when we think about what's going on here, okay, Tether has infiltrated the US market in a big way. And if I was setting up something that was pretty fraudulent, why wouldn't I be the largest buyer of US Treasuries? Because technically, if they go after me, well, all of a sudden, the US market starts to collapse because I'm one of the largest buyers and holders of US Treasuries. See, a lot of people actually don't look into this and they don't even consider it a possibility because they trust Tether, they trust USDT. But again, when we think about the CEO of Tether, he has been very quick to be defensive. Brad Garlinghouse recently talked about how Tether was going to be targeted by the US government. This goes back to like the summer of 2024. And immediately, Paolo went on to X and started taking shots at Ripple, taking shots at Brad Garlinghouse as well. And I found it very interesting to see that. And I feel like it kind of showed some of the cards on Tether's side. But regardless, we also have this video clip where we have Tether is helping to secure the US debt. Check it out.
Tether is the company that brought financial freedom and financial inclusion to hundreds of millions of people. I don't want to be or sound cocky or disrespectful, but we heard so much about financial inclusion, how it was important and all that. This is the financial inclusion is the topic of the 21st century. But I believe there is no company, we are not an NGO, we are not a charity. Well, there are so many NGOs and charities that raise so much money to do financial inclusion, and we don't see them anywhere in the countries where we are. We did much more for financial inclusion with hundreds of millions of people than anyone else in the world. And while we are doing that, we are buying back the US debt. So right now we have around $115 billion of US treasuries. We are not a country, we are a small company, we are a small Tether. But if we were a country, we would be the 18th country in terms of ownership of US debt. So, and if you think about it, we also put the US debt, we make the US debt much more resilient so that right now, for example, you had one single decision maker in China that 30 years ago he had control over almost $3 trillion of US debt, and now instead they decided to sell a good chunk of it, and now there is China has only 770 billion in US debt, and with the USDT that cannot happen, right? So we are every one of our 400 million users is a different brain, is a different mind, is a different person. So they will, all these 400 million people will not wake up one single day all together thinking, oh, now let's redeem Tether and so we can sell the US debt. No.
So again, when we think about what's happening here, it all sounds great on paper. It sounds like Tether is one of the biggest players in this market. They've, become a big piece of the US market. But let's actually look into this a little bit more. Tether actually hasn't had a 100% full audit done. They haven't been extremely transparent. And over here we have Tether CEO says full audit by Big Four firm is top priority following new CFO hire. Now this is coming from Reuters, and this got posted on the 22nd. Okay? Now we've been hearing this for a very long time, so we do question if this is actually going to happen. Now, if this does happen, does all of the talk about Tether being unsafe, you can't trust it, all that kind of stuff, does all of that go away? In my opinion, I do believe that it does start to diminish a lot of the arguments around Tether being unsafe, a ticking time bomb, this, that, whatever. But until we actually get a full-on audit, because we've heard this many times over, right? I don't think that Tether's safe. I still think that it is a ticking time bomb. I think that it's tied back to a huge Ponzi scheme, ultimately inflating the price and the value of Bitcoin. This has always been a big topic of discussion. But on top of this, remember this post here from Smokedog back in September? Yes, Tether will continue to lose market dominance to regulated stablecoins. The era of Tether is coming to an end. And here we actually have, this might imply that USDT will continue to lose market dominance to regulated stablecoins in the future, regarding the demands for full transparency around stablecoins. Now, on top of that, we have over here in the second image, stablecoin expansion. In 2024, the stablecoin market is predicted to reach a new record high, surpassing $200 billion, driven by the launch of markets in crypto assets, MiCA regulated stablecoins in Europe, the growth of yield-bearing stablecoins, and rising trading volumes. USD Coin, USDC, Circle, is expected to overtake Tether in market share. Know your customer infractions and market manipulation affecting Tether's market position is the main key drivers around how we could see Tether significantly impacted. Now, continuing on this discussion, here we have a post from September 4th as well regarding JPMorgan. We have even JPMorgan foresees the decreased use of Tether with upcoming stablecoin regulation. Big statement from the top of the financial food chain. Regulations put indirect pressure on Tether's attractiveness. This is how RLUSD will overtake Tether's market share of stablecoins. RLUSD, which is backed by a regulated entity like Ripple and operates on its own blockchain, the XRP ledger, would be well positioned to capitalize on the shift in the market. With a high level of regulatory compliance, transparency, and adherence to new standards, RLUSD will become more attractive to institutions and investors who are increasingly wary of Tether's opaque asset disclosures and weaker regulatory standing. Time is ticking for Tether. And here we actually have the post regarding JPMorgan foreseeing decreased use of Tether with upcoming stablecoin regulations. Upcoming stablecoin regulations in the US and Europe will impact Tether's usage, according to JPMorgan analyst. These regulations would likely put indirect pressure on Tether as its attractiveness would diminish relative to stablecoins with more transparency and greater compliance with new regulatory KYC AML standards, the analyst said. This challenge for Tether would also apply to the DeFi space, where Tether is widely used as a source of collateral and liquidity. Tether's reports are still lacking a full and detailed asset breakdown and independent audits instead of auditors' assurances, they said. And that's why, if this is true, this will be huge for Tether. And in fact, I do think that it would put a lot of trust behind Tether. But until we actually see a full audit, and we're talking about a detailed full audit, full transparency, I don't think that Tether can be trusted. There are significant price risk associated with assets other than US T-bills as well. And that's because while Tether reported billions of dollars worth of profit last year due to high interest rates and underlying assets price appreciation, there are significant price risks associated with assets other than UST bills. Now, building upon this, and this is from March 22nd, JPMorgan is predicting the demise of Tether as well. Sure, you can disagree with me, but you are going to really ignore the bold calls of smart money. And big shout out to Smoke Dog for all of this. But building upon this, we also saw a big update from JPMorgan back in February as well, saying that Tether may need to sell Bitcoin to comply with proposed US stablecoin rules. And the big question is, will this impact the market if this is true? And the answer is yeah, it will be a big impact. Now, is all of this bearish? The thing is that we probably won't see Tether targeted or Tether implode or anything like that until the bear market. I think that will be a big catalyst for it. I think that it's similar to FTX, if you will. If all of this is true, and if Tether cannot be trusted until we get this audit, this could still be something to keep a close eye on. Now, on top of that, we have over here that a new stablecoin bill introduced to the US Senate in April would encourage US banks to issue stablecoins and disadvantage non-bank stablecoin issuers and non-US entities such as Tether. And even building upon this, the Genius stablecoin bill, big shout out to Chad Steingraber for this, inherently cannot earn yield, must meet requirements, or cannot be used. Capital requirements tailored to the business model. And this is all under the Genius Act. And we have here that excludes those earning interest or yield, excludes tokenized deposits or DLT-based bank accounts, also excludes certain types of securities. A payment stablecoin not authorized under the Act, presumably offshore, cannot be used for interbank settlement. The issuer of an unauthorized stablecoin in the US is subject to penalties of $1 million for each infraction or up to 5 years in prison. This is interesting, but also to really kind of focus on the most important ones here, it is a payment stablecoin not authorized under the Act, offshore. Tether is offshore. The issuer of an unauthorized stablecoin in the US is subject to penalties of $1 million for each infraction or up to 5 years in prison. And this would be Tether because they are not, at this current moment in time, based in the US. So the question here remains, how is Tether going to get around this? They have to have a full audit. They have to be fully transparent. And it can't be, one of the audits that they've gotten done prior where it's like an untrusted auditor. Until we actually see this, a full audit by a big four firm, like this is a top priority. Okay, well, why wasn't a top priority for the last roughly 8 years or so? Because you got to remember that Tether has been around for a while. I mean, even down here, it launched back in 2014. It became a massive player early on. So it's been, roughly 10 plus years without a full-on audit that we can actually trust. So what's really going on here? That's what everyone's trying to see. We're trying to look under the hood. The problem is that, the whole idea around this is that Tether is basically finding a mechanic that they know. Maybe it's in the family, right? And the mechanic is trying to tell us what's under the hood. We want to see for ourselves. We want to see a full detailed view of what's actually under that hood so that we can trust what's under the hood. Until that actually happens, Tether cannot be trusted, and it technically is a ticking time bomb. Now, on top of that, remember that recently we spotlighted this post here from Wrath of Kahneman that did say, interesting paper, regulatory clarity and XRP, the path to global institutional stablecoin adoption, by an emeritus finance professor from Marquette, not carried by a journal, sees the Genius Act as a very positive thing for RLUSD and therefore XRP. And we actually have the full-on text here, and I can open this up in a new tab just so that you guys can see it. Let me zoom in, right? Here we have it. While the SEC litigation remains an obstacle, which it's no longer an obstacle, Ripple's state-level licensing victories and RLUSD's compliance under the Genius Act position XRP as a bridge between traditional finance and blockchain innovation. These factors collectively affirm the thesis XRP's embedded utility, regulatory progress, and relationship with stablecoins reinforce its status as a pioneering functional cryptocurrency contingent upon resolving legal ambiguities and scaling competition. So when we think about what's going on here, when we think about what's actually, happening, if Tether fails to get this full audit by the time that the Genius Act is fully passed, Tether is going to lose significant market traction. We could very well see RLUSD take over in a huge, huge way. Now, the question still remains, is Tether going to actually get this done? And if they do, what changes? Well, I do think that a lot of the speculation and a lot of the negative FUD around Tether, because technically speaking, we don't know what's under the hood right now, a lot of that does get put to rest. But until then, I don't think that we can trust Tether. I don't think that we can trust Tether. I still think that this is a big issue within crypto because you got to remember that Tether does power most of DeFi, has over 145, almost $146 billion in fully diluted value. And if we're thinking about that, okay, imagine what a wipeout of Tether could do for the space. I'm not betting big on it. I don't want it to happen. I'm just saying that it is something that we have to keep in the back of our mind because everyone thought that Terra Luna was too big to fail. Everyone thought that FTX was too big to fail. It's the same story here with Tether. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, definitely leave a like, subscribe, turn notifications on because more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord down in the description below. And with that being said, guys, it's been Nick. Thanks for watching. Peace out.